Hi guys, and welcome to Escape Wheel Watch Reviews. My name is Steve, and today we're going to be reviewing the Bramier Rocks TriLayer GMT. Hopefully I am pronouncing that right. It's right there on the dial. Bramier? I don't know. But yeah, I'm just going to say it's a Bramier. So this is the Bramier Rocks TriLayer GMT. I'm getting an early preview through the use of this pre-production prototype unit. A couple things are changing. They said they are changing something with the bezel insert. It has some defects. I don't really see any defects, but yeah, they're changing the bezel insert a little bit and increasing the size of the hands, I believe is what they said, and then also fixing the light. I'm assuming that has to do with the Lume, but I'm not really positive on that. So just a couple things to keep in mind. And if by the end of this review you are interested in this and you want to pick it up or learn more, I'm going to be leaving the links down in the video description. That might take you to the official site, or it might take you right to the Kickstarter. I'm not really sure how they're feeding the information out. So yeah, just go check down in the video description. It's not an affiliate link or anything like that. The watch comes in 3 different colorways that you can see here. I think the green one looks fantastic. I have the teal version for you today, which looks a little bit lighter in color than the images shown on the Kickstarter. I try and do my best to show the actual color, but I know sometimes it doesn't always come through. So it is a little bit of a lighter blue color than a teal color in my opinion. So just something to note. So the watch case and bracelet are made of 316L stainless steel. It has a sapphire crystal with AR coating, a sapphire bezel insert, screw down crown, screw down case back, 200 meters of claimed water resistance Swiss BGW9, and the watch is powered by the high-beat Miyota 9075 Travelers GMT movement. So this is the second watch that I've reviewed from the brand. However, previously the brand was named Benkler. I'm not sure why they changed the name, but they've made a change, and it was a heck of a watch, that previous one. So what do I think about this one? Well, let's dig in and let's find out. Doing a quick wrist check today, wearing my Addy's Dive 369 exploring watch. Just got this one back from my dad. He borrowed it for 6 months, and yeah, nice to have it back. All right, so let's talk about the dimensions. Got a diameter of 41.8 millimeters, case thickness of 13.5 millimeters. We got 22 millimeter lug width, lug tip to lug tip of 49 millimeters. And on the supplied bracelet with all links provided, it weighs 180 grams. This is sized up bigger than what I would normally wear, just so you guys know. So I think the size is decent. Obviously, this is a little bit bigger than I like. Almost 42 in diameter, 13.5 thick is not bad at all. It's got a pretty flat case back, decent little turn down to the lugs there as well. You know, 49 lug to lug is pretty standard for a watch of this size. 22 millimeter lug width. It does weigh a lot, 180 grams. It's a nice, big, heavy watch. It feels pretty quality, I'll say that. So yeah, if you guys are into these kind of bigger watches, you know, more substantial feeling watches, you're going to really like this one. I have the wrist to pull it off, so I'm going to go outside right now and throw it on my wrist for you. And here we are on my 7.5 inch wrist, and as you can see, I can pull this off for sure. Got a decent little curve down to the lugs there as well. Lots of light play off of those chamfers and off the bracelet. I was able to get a pretty decent fitment. I got it buttoned down a little bit tighter than I'd like, but I don't really have a choice, and it's a pretty heavy watch, so that's how I like to wear them personally. So you can see lots of distortion on the crystal there, and there's kind of how the dial would look in some natural lighting. I think it looks pretty good. And popping out in some more direct lighting there, you can see got some blue AR coating on the crystal. You can see that double reflection there. So it does cause a little bit of an issue, especially when you have something above you like this tree here. It gives off some pretty good reflections in my opinion, but yeah, it's overall finishing I think is pretty good, and yeah, that's just kind of how it looks. I don't have too many 22 millimeter straps, so I'm going to go throw it on what I do have, and we can get back to this review. And here we are on a black rubber strap. I think that actually looks pretty good. This is probably how I'd wear it mostly if it wasn't on the bracelet. So yeah, very comfortable, kind of contours nicely. There was a little bit of a clearance issue with the strap hitting the case, but it fit fine. So yeah, if you have a thicker leather strap, it might rub on the case a little bit, so just something to be aware of. And here we are on a brown leather strap. This is one that's just lifted off of a St. Martin that I have. Yeah, I think that actually looks pretty good. What do you guys think of that one? And lastly, here we are on a nylon strap, 2 layers underneath it there, so you can still see it's sitting pretty good still. Very comfortable. A little bit of a clearance issue, but still made it through just fine. So just something to note. A thicker strap you're going to have a little bit of a problem with, but yeah, I actually think that actually looks pretty good. All right, let's go back inside and let's get back to this review. All right, so let's talk about the case finishing on this thing. So case finishing is a mixture of brushed and polished surfaces. You can see here, you got a really nice and consistent satinized brushing on the top. It's a vertical brushing, matches up with the bracelet end links very nicely. On the sides here, you got really nice horizontal brushing. Again, really nice and consistent. This is really high quality finishing in my opinion. You do have nice polished chamfers there, breaking up the surfaces. And again, they are really nicely done. Nice polishing, nice crisp lines as well. I'm pretty satisfied with that. There you can see the crown there, 6.5 millimeters, and it is signed with the Bramier B. I think it looks good. I think there's plenty of grip to it. It's a good size, doesn't get lost or anything like that. Overall, I'm pretty satisfied with it. Flipping it over to the case back here, I'm going to test that for sapphire. I'll let you know right up in the corner here. And then it is just a screw down case back, simple notches to get a tool in there. You kind of have your spec sheet around the outside or branding around the outside. I think it looks really good. You get a nice view of the Miyota 9075 with the custom rotor as well. Again, this is a pre-production or a prototype. You can see the gasket right there is holding up on the rotor there. So rotor's not spinning around, so you get a nice view of that without it wobbling all around. 9075 movement's pretty good looking movement in my opinion. And yeah, the case back is nice. The bottom edge here is nice. You can see there's a nice chamfer there. So overall, very satisfied with this. Pretty comfortable on wrist for being such a big watch. I had no issues comfort-wise. All right, so let's talk about the bezel on this thing. So the bezel insert, really interesting. It's a sapphire bezel insert. You can see here, BGW9 on all the white parts, BGW9 on all the white parts down here as well. It's a very nice glowing bezel. It looks cool. I'm a big fan of sapphire bezels. They just have a cool look to them. And then the bezel itself, fully polished stainless steel, as you can see there, nicely done, nice finishing on the bezel as well. Overall, pretty happy with that. You can see it is a slightly sloped bezel insert, and it actually sits above the crystal. There's right here on my finger, I'm actually feeling a little lip on the inner edge of the bezel insert. So that might be something they're changing. I'm not really sure. They said they're doing something with the bezel insert. They just didn't tell me what. So it's just something to note. It's not it's not a bad thing, I don't think. It's just just something to note. The bezel action on this thing, you can see here, there's a little bit of play on this bezel. Not a big fan of that. And then it's a 120 click bidirectional bezel. An interesting choice. Not really sure why they did that, but you're gonna be able to time all the half hour and I think even like 15-minute time zones. So just something to note. It's 120 click bidirectional. The action on it is actually pretty good, nice and clicky tactile feedback. It doesn't really sound premium, but it feels fine. I've got no issues with that. The alignment on it is really good as well. It's actually a pretty decent bezel. It was unusual and kind of a surprise that they went with the 120 click bidirectional. It's the first time I've ever come across a bezel like that. Other than the play right there, and there's just a little bit of wobble up and down as well, and side to side. I don't feel any wobble when I'm pressing on the bezel, but so there is a little bit of play in the bezel. A little bit disappointed in that. All right, so let's test the crystal for sapphire. It is positive for sapphire, and if you missed it before, the back is also sapphire. So we do have a sapphire sandwich. Pretty nice crystal, lots of blue AR coating. As you can see there, it is a single dome crystal, so curved on the top, flat on the bottom, and that gives us that nice distortion that you see there. People love it. I love it. The thing that I don't like about it is the double reflection. You can kind of see that going on right here. The whole dial there is kind of taken up by a big reflection, and then you have this other reflection there. So that's just the two surfaces reflecting the light a little bit differently. I'm not a huge fan of single dome crystals. I do like the fact that they give that nice distortion there, and they're also magnifying, which makes the rehaut look really nice and thin there, as you can see, and makes the dial pop just a little bit more, and does some cool light tricks with the dial. But yeah, I'm just not a huge fan of single dome crystals in general. It takes a really, really, really good one to make me enjoy it more than a double dome crystal. And this one isn't a really, really good crystal. It's a fine crystal. If you're into these single dome crystals, you like that distortion, and you're kind of used to that, this is probably a pretty good crystal. It's just not my favorite. All Okay, so let's get to the dial on this thing. So the dial is kind of the star of the show on this watch. It is 3 layers, hence the tri-layer name. So you have a very bottom layer, which you barely see. That's in between the 24-hour ring there and the 24-hour disc. So you can barely see that. I'm not really sure why they felt the need to have a full layer in there, but it's there. And then you have your disc layer, and then you have your actual dial layer here. So the dial is done really nicely. I actually love these 3D printed, or 3D, they call them 3D Lume. And it's basically solid blocks of luminescent material. And it looks really good. We'll get to the Lume shot here in just a little bit. You have your kind of record style track there that kind of encompasses the numerals and the hour indices. Everything is applied nice and straight. I think they look really good. I'll get you guys up real close to that, and you can see that they're just solid blocks of Lume. There's no outline to them or anything like that. They look really cool. Very happy with that. You can see the minute track printed around the outside, just on a plain section of the dial. It kind of looks sunburst. And then you have your inner 24-hour counter there. They have the Bramier branding down here at the 6 o'clock position, blocking a couple numbers there, which I'm not a huge fan of. And then you have your GMT hand, which is basically just a disc that spins around and takes the place of a hand. So that is kind of cool that they kind of integrated that into the dial. You do have a date here at the 4:30 position, nice circular cutout. Everything in there is centered nicely. It looks pretty good. The handset that they used on it, like I said, they might be switching these handsets to make them a different size. I'm not sure what that means. Hopefully that means a little bit bigger. This minute hand does get lost a little bit. They're nicely skeletonized though. I do like the setup of it, where the Lume on the outside and the Lume on the inside of the hour hand, they don't overlap each other. It looks kind of cool. I'm pretty happy with that. The second hand reaches right out to the minute track, sweeping along with a nice paddle Lume plot there. Don't pay attention to all the fingerprints and smudges on this thing. This is, again, a prototype. So I'm sure the one you receive will be nice and clean on the inside. But yeah, I think overall it's a very clean dial layout, but also has a lot of interest going on. There's a lot of different aspects of the dial, and it all plays nicely with the light, as you can see there. So yeah, I do like it a lot, actually. It's pretty cool. I will pop up a Lume shot here. You can see it against a couple of other watches in the collection. That bezel does fade pretty quickly, and you can see the hour hand does also start to fade. But the 12, 3, 6, and 9 and the hour hand, it definitely hangs on really nice and strong. I was able to read this thing at 3 o'clock in the morning when I woke up, so no issues there. I think the Lume is actually pretty good on this watch. It didn't just blow me away though. All right, so let's talk about the movement on this thing. So the movement is the Miyota 9075. It's a high beat, so 28,800 beats per hour. It hand winds independently set hour hand, which is kind of cool. It's useful for traveling. It does have the date complication as well. Single directional winding rotor. I can't really tell you how loud it is on this model. I don't expect it to be too loud. It's a pretty solid case. But yeah, it's a really nice movement, brand new. It just came out, I believe, last year. This is the second one that I've had, so I'm very, very familiar with it, the positives and the negatives of it. So the movement has been running pretty good. I don't have a time graph reading. I didn't do one on this just because it's a prototype, and but I mean, these Miyotas, they always run very nice, very accurate. So yeah, I don't think you'll have any issue with the accuracy on this thing. It's operated by this 3 o'clock screw down crown. Nice smooth screw in, screw out action, plenty of grip, good size on the crown. First position is your hand winding, which is nice and smooth. Second position is when you jump your hour hand. So you roll it backwards, it'll jump it forward. You roll it forward, it'll jump it backwards. So it allows you to set the time when you're jumping between time zones. So that's why they call this a traveler's GMT. If you are traveling a lot, and I am saying this, when I say a lot, I mean a lot. If you are someone that's on an airplane every 2 or 3 days, and you want to watch, and you only have this one watch, these are awesome. They're fantastic. They're going to be super useful. You set the GMT hand to your local time zone, and then you jump the hour hand depending on where you are in the world. So it is really helpful in that aspect. The thing that I don't like about it is that, for one, I'm not a big traveler. I don't travel. I maybe travel once or twice a year, and when I do, it's typically in the same time zone. And then I have a very large collection, so I don't wear a watch for a specific watch. As to say, I don't wear a specific watch for a week, let's say. So if I pick this up and it's set on the 5th, and I need to get it to the 15th today. I have to get into the hour hand here, and I've got to go all the way around. You'll see the hour hand jump, or the date jump, and you'll see it jump again. And I don't think there's a way to go back. Yeah, there's not a way to like trick it. So you got to keep going around. It's kind of annoying. Yeah, it's just not my favorite thing. It's not my favorite movement. They're actually really nice movements. The convenience for me just isn't there with this Traveler style GMT. I'd much rather have like an NH34. That's just me though. Obviously I'm trying to show you guys what this movement does. It's a great movement. It feels great, feels solid. It's going to be accurate. It's going to be reliable, and you guys are going to love it. It's just something to know about the Quickside date. If you have a big collection or you don't wear a watch all the time, that might be a little bit of an issue for you. All right, so let's talk about the bracelet on this thing. So the bracelet is 22 millimeters and it tapers down to 18 millimeters at the clasp. You can see it's a very, I guess, Nautilus inspired H-link bracelet with polished middle links there. The finishing on the bracelet seems to be really good. Got no issues with that. Female end links. These are all solid links, solid end links. They're fitting in there nice and tight. I see no gaps or anything like that. It's a nice clean look, very, very nicely flowing with the case lines. Yeah, it's actually really good bracelet, very solid feeling. You can see the bottom edge here, or I can feel that the bottom edge here, really nice and rounded off. It's a pretty thin bracelet, as you can see there, so it doesn't really match the case very well, but it's not something I really noticed or complain about while it's on wrist. You do have split pins for sizing. I removed 3, I believe, for my 7.5 inch wrist. It tapers down to a butterfly clasp with the Bramier branding there. You can see it's one of those clasps where you have to close one side before the other side. Yeah, a decent butterfly clasp, fully milled on the inside, as you can see here. Pretty nice. The only issue that I have with it is that this link here doesn't really flow as well as it should. It sometimes gets caught, and so when you go and put this thing on, when you had it open, it kind of does that. So it's just something that I've noticed time and time again when I do use this thing. Same with the other side there. So if they could work on that first link there and get that to articulate a little bit better, it'll be pretty good. Otherwise, I mean, the butterfly clasp, I'm not a huge fan of these things. There's no half links or anything like that either. So sizing is going to be hit or miss. I've been wearing it a little bit tighter than I like, which is pretty much how I would wear a watch like this anyway. A big, heavy watch like this, I like to have it buckled down pretty tight. So it's just something to note. I know that's going to be a deal breaker for a lot of people. You know, half links are almost necessary on a butterfly clasp, in my opinion, especially for a watch in this size. Other than that, though, I think the bracelet is good. The tolerances are nice and tight. I think it looks good. The finishing is good. Yeah, it's nice. I actually do like it a lot. So there you go, guys. That is the Bramier TriLayer GMT. I think it looks pretty cool. Interesting bracelet combination. I think the case looks nice. The case is a little bit bigger than I personally like, but I know there's plenty of people out there that like these 42 millimeter watches. The bezel action could be improved. The crystal's not my favorite either. I do really like the dial on it. The GMT movement, again, not for me, but it could be for somebody else. I'm just hoping to, represent this watch the best way that I can. It's really nicely done. The case finishing and the bracelet, it all feels very solid. It's a nicely built watch. They just made some decisions that I personally don't like. It doesn't mean that you guys don't like them. Hopefully you guys have gained some insight through this video, and you can make an informed decision. So if you do like this, like I said, down in the video description, there will be some links there to take you to Kickstarter or take you to the official site. Go check it out, guys. I think that's it for me. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.